The following is a sneak preview of the as-yet untitled Book 1 of my work-in-progress book series, currently known as Unity Project. Chapter 5-4 Nara. Nara's heart raced as Nova pushed the throttle and pitched the nose forward. He thumbed the button on the inside of the throttle control, and Nara felt a dull whirring from underneath them. Small displays in front of her and on both sides offered a variety of status messages which helped her follow what was happening. An indicator told her that the landing gear had just been safely stowed. As the ship built a considerable amount of forward momentum, Nara felt the nose flick upward. Thrusters roared behind her, pinning her into the seat. The ship accelerated like it was falling off a cliff. The G-forces pressed higher and higher on Nara's torso as the nose pitched further upward. Before long, the orange-tinted skies began to fade away, as did the roar of the thrusters in the rarefied atmosphere. Nara found herself staring out at the vast, starry expanse of space. Words completely failed her. As the ship approached the apex of its climb, Nova shut down the thrusters completely. Nara was startled by the sudden lack of noise and vibration. She felt her own weight falling away until only the 6-point harness in the seat beneath her kept her secure. Nova pressed another button, and Nara felt a few short jolts from all around her as the ship became level with the horizon. Nara reached up and lifted her visor as the view of her home planet became all-consuming. The blue marble of Altessia glinted in the edges, where the binary stars just barely disappeared behind it. It created a golden arc of light that traced the edge of the planet like a razor, casting shadows on the mountains and hills and cities. It was absolutely breathtaking. Tears collected at the corners of Nara's eyes. She reached up to wipe them away, but they just kept coming. The sight was utterly entrancing. This was a dream Nara had had for years, finally realized. "It's really something, huh?" Nova asked. The tone in his voice made it clear that he completely understood. Nara sniffled. It's more beautiful than I could have possibly imagined." Nova sighed in agreement. "I will never get tired of it." They shared a moment of quiet reverence, which was soon interrupted as the screen in front of Nova chimed that they were approaching the peak of their trajectory, or apoapsis, as she remembered Nova calling it. She saw him let go of the side sticks and begin typing in a sequence on the keypad to his left. The retro style of the N80 GT's systems and interior design came as a surprise to Nara, as she would have expected the operations director for the most advanced society in the known galaxy to have something totally experimental or state-of-the-art. But here she was, in the starship equivalent of an antique sports car, floating thousands of meters above the planet she'd wanted to leave for so long, and it was absolutely blissful. Nova's display chirped again, and this time the central display in front of Nara changed to reflect the same thing on his, a single-color rendition of their view from inside the ship. Then a solid line appeared and seemed to trace a path beyond the front of the ship and around the backside of the planet. Then the entire image changed to show a polar view of Altessia and zoomed out to include its two moons, Mina and Mara. The route it had traced went around the planet itself a few times, then flung out to the larger moon Mara and circled it once before slipping between it and Mina and launching off the screen. "See that?" Nova asked. "That's the route the slingshot drive is going to have us take." "The what?" Nara said, confused. "The slingshot drive." "What's that?" Nova paused for a beat and then said, "Well, I'll show you." Nova tapped a button on his console and the displays momentarily flashed green as to indicate that the route had been accepted. Nara suddenly felt the weight on her torso grow stronger than ever as she was pushed hard against her seat. She looked to the side and saw that Nova had pressed the throttle to maximum, and the ship was now building velocity faster than she could process. The readout on the center screen changed back to the forward trajectory, and Nara felt the ship bank slightly, keeping it in line with the path displayed on the screen. Out of the corner of her eye, Nara saw Nova's left hand move off the throttle to a series of switch covers. He lifted two of them to reveal polished chrome switches under each one. He toggled the first one to the on position with a resounding click, and the ship made a sound like energy spooling up. A small auxiliary readout screen behind Nova's head flashed a new status message at her. Slingshot course plotted. Course confirmed. Gravitational tether online. Nova flipped the second switch, then closed both switch covers. The readout changed again. Surface altitude locked. Slingshot maneuver confirmed. Time to jump, T-minus 1 minute, 35 seconds. What does that mean? What's a slingshot maneuver? Nara called out. The roar of the ion engines transmitted through the hull and made it considerably harder to hear even her own voice. Hasn't anyone told you how we managed to get from one star system to another so quickly? Nova asked. We gotta break the null space barrier somehow. Nara felt her own weight against the seat increase as the ship began to orbit Altesia at blistering speeds. The ship felt smooth as glass beneath her, though, as if it were a bird gliding effortlessly through the air. Her vision became more tunneled, but just as it reached the point of real discomfort, it vanished. All the excess weight left her in an instant as the NADGT was sent flying towards Mara. As it drew closer at an impossible rate, she leaned forward to the back of Nova's headrest. Are we going to have to do that again? She asked nervously. No, not like that, Nova said. Nara could hear the smile in his words. We've done most of the burn already. In a minute here, it'll get pretty tight again, as we have to make one last swoop between those two moons. But from there, we'll break through into null space, and it'll be smooth sailing all the way to Helios. Nara leaned back in her chair. He said null space. Null space, she whispered aloud. Yeah, null space, Nova agreed. His display chimed again. Okay, do hold on now. This one won't take as long. Nara braced herself as Nova rolled the ship to place Mara above them. And Nara felt the huge weight descend on her once more as the ion thrusters roared behind her. Gravitational tether re-engaged. Time to jump, T-minus 30 seconds. The ship made one last half-pass by Mara. Nara felt her weight shift again as Nova banked the ship away from the planet and the moon. The tether disengaged again, and they were thrown away from the moon, going faster than ever. Nara's perception funneled as the ship's velocity narrowed her vision. The roar of the ion thrusters faded to a gentle whir, and she could barely perceive a swirling mass of glowing blue particles arcing around the ship and spiraling towards the nose. She dazedly looked around, noticing that various pieces of the ship were emanating a similar brilliant blue light. She hazily looked over her shoulder and noticed two bulbous, oblong cowlings had risen up from behind the canopy and were one of the brightest sources of blue light. She slowly turned herself back to face forwards, just as the ship around her seemed to compress and stretch. Nara felt like time itself slowed down even further as her legs seemed to be a little bit further away than usual. Then, like a rubber band fired from a fingertip, the NADGT leapt off into null space. Thank you. Have a good night, and stay tuned for more.